Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. It's Georgia Slim again. I'm gonna go a little bit more into detail on the farm plan. If details what you want, then is where you're gonna get it. This should be a pretty shorter video than the last one. Forgive me, I'm a little tired. So we went over biophysical settings, and they do provide a good amount of guidance for your restoration plan. Uh, There's more detail and some other different pieces of information at NatureServe Explorer. So you can go to Explorer, okay, explorer.natureserve.org. And the NatureServe names in the search bar, you can search for your ecosystem. Uh, the ecosystem names in NatureServe are sometimes, not always, slightly different. Yeah, so here's forest and woodland. The LANDFIRE is just forest. Um, but their descriptions are pretty much the same. Sometimes they're word for word. Uh, NatureServe has some things that LANDFIRE doesn't. And of course, LANDFIRE has the succession classes and modeling information, which NatureServe doesn't have. But NatureServe has these species of interest, at-risk species reported, and animal species reported. They're not very complete, but they have them. It's pretty cool. They also have a classification section which lists component associations, which is pretty cool. Um, Something we should know about the classification of ecosystems. Okay. Biophysical settings. Okay. If we go to component associations, and this first component association listed, pignut, white ash. Well, while it's loading, I'll try to explain this as best as I can. We're kind of walking between two different classification systems of ecosystems. Ecologists come up with different systems to classify ecosystems. Here are some more down here. Okay, but what NatureServe, Nature Conservancy, U.S. Forest Service, basically LANDFIRE, what they use is the International Terrestrial Ecological System Classification, and that's what they use to classify historical vegetation, the terrestrial ecological system. To classify existing vegetation, they use the International Vegetation Classification. So here's a little diagram of how I make sense of it. Here, the terrestrial ecological system is where we have biophysical settings. It's where we have our NatureServe ecological systems descriptions. Okay, now within them are plant associations. Okay, and plant associations can be in two ecological systems. So they can be in both. You can find one plant association in both ecosystems, I should say. Okay, does that make sense? And then within the alliances, or excuse me, and now the plant associations are also within larger plant alliances. So here we have three plant associations that make up one whole alliance, and this alliance also has 5 plant associations, 3 of which are found in this ecological system, 2 of which are found in this ecological system, okay? 1 of which is found in this ecological system. So there's a lot of, this is a good diagram that I try to use to explain the overlap. In the alliance and association kind of hierarchy, that is the International Vegetation Classification. Okay, and these are our biophysical settings. Okay, so that's how the two relate to each other, more or less. If that doesn't make any sense, I'm sorry. It is a little confusing. But what is important to know right now is that in our biophysical settings on NatureServe, they're referred to as International Terrestrial Ecological Systems. But they are the same ecosystems being described as our biophysical settings. And so we can use the component associations within these NatureServe descriptions to get a little more detailed. If you have, for instance, if you have a Southern Piedmont dry oak pine forest showing up in your biophysical settings on your site, and you go to that location on your site, and you see a lot of plants that are described in here, but you also see some white ash. Okay, then what you might be dealing with is this ecosystem. You know, if there's some pignut and chalk maple and white ash, you might be dealing with this plant community. You know, 200, 100 feet over, 200 feet from there, it might be completely different. It might be another one of these component associations, but you might still be within your biophysical set. You might still be within the same biophysical setting. So our NatureServe descriptions, specifically the component associations and the alliances that the component associations also fit within, can really help us get even more detailed, but the confidence is not as strong in these descriptions. So these ecosystems a little more loosely defined, and this is where things become more of an art than a science. But we use science like ecology here. Look at all these references. Okay. We use science as a guide, and there's a lot of plant communities in a lot of these ecosystems. One thing I'll say sometimes, especially with riparian ecosystems, there's what you call aggregate systems. So I'll bring up an example here. Central Interior and Appalachian riparian systems. On this map, it's the green part, this green here. In the biophysical settings descriptions, that is here we go. It makes this note. NatureServe describes this as an aggregated system. So sometimes if you can't find your ecosystem in NatureServe, if you can't find your biophysical settings, if the name is not bringing up any search results in NatureServe, check your biophysical settings and see if it's an aggregate. Or play around with the name. You know, there's gonna be a description in there. You might have to dig a little bit, but here's what, you know. So Southern Piedmont small floodplain and riparian forest. That's what I would be dealing with in this situation on this map, because it's a real small floodplain, maybe not even. Um, it might be this one, South Central Interior Small Stream and Riparian. It might be Central Appalachian Stream and Riparian. So again, some of these are loosely defined. Uh, it's an art and a science. You kind of have to go back and forth from your left brain to your right brain, and your gut sometimes. But there's a lot of information out there to help you. That's the whole point of these videos. Um, yeah, you're going to have to get out in the field and do some identification yourself in order to discern these real specific plant communities. You're going to have to really do a good inventory of your site. What plant species exist? How abundant are they? And in the next videos, I'll show you how to do that, how to get that information too. We'll go a little bit into that in some other videos. So get to it, do some learning, get outside, do some learning, do some documentation, get to work, help the work alone. Get love, peace, and elbow grease, y'all.